Well, greetings and salutations. I'm going to try and make this as quick as I can. There's a lot of stuff to cover, and I'm trying not to make it as long as the hangout itself was. Um, okay, first, let me get a couple of things out of the way. And this really needs to be said because it's important. Well, I'm going to say it's important for both sides of the argument, whether you're a flat earther or you're a globe earther, it doesn't matter. And that is using sock accounts and fake accounts. Um, First of all, if you one of the things that people have noticed and actually kind of caught on to, which I feel kind of proud about, I guess, is that when somebody comes on into my comment section in my on my channel and they post a bunch of just some kind of bullshit, um, you know, calling names or something like that, and that's the only thing they put in the post, mind you. I'm a grown adult. I could take a little bit of name calling, but if somebody comes onto my comment section, the first thing that and all they do is they uh, just post some kind of insult or some kind of unsubstantiated claim or whatever. I always respond with "Thanks for supporting the Globe." Now, there's a reason why I do that, and it's a very specific reason. Has nothing to do with me being particularly arrogant. It's actually a fact. You see, if you are unable to make an argument for your side of whatever debate, um, if you are completely entirely unable to make some kind of conscious effort to address the material, find out state why you think it's wrong, and then come up with something that supports your side of it, then you are effectively doing an injustice and thereby delegitimizing your own side of whatever discussion, because you are showing up basically to just to be a moron. Okay, you are not showing up to have any kind of a rational discussion for or against your side. So therefore, whenever a flat earther comes onto my channel and they do that, uh, my automatic reaction is just to say thanks for supporting the globe and move on. And so that said, there's also another type of I'm going to say idiot out there. And yes, this happens on both sides of the argument, whether it be a globe earther or a flat earther. And I need to make sure that at least I state my position on this because of the fact that it's actually, I'm a person. I like experiments. I like people to bring me facts and bring me something that raises my eyebrow and says, "Hey, that's kind of cool. Let me look into that." Which flat Earth has yet to do. But one thing that I wanted to bring up, and like I said, it actually is kind of important when it comes to the chat sections on live hangouts. Okay, this is the uh, live hangout that I had last night. Uh, waiting for waiting for Riley to not show up, which he actually ended up showing up just to say he wasn't going to show up. Sorry, Riley, you would have scored more points with me and more integrity had you not shown up at all. But let me point out something here because this is actually kind of important, and the reason why I bring up Riley in this is because of the fact that this was the example that at least I noticed last night. Now, I don't know if Riley actually attended the video the debate last night in the chat. I'm not 100% sure, and I'm not going to go scrolling through all the text to find out. If you are going to engage with somebody, and no, I'm not talking about Riley here. I'm talking about anybody who's in the chat, whether no matter which side it's on. If you're going to engage with somebody in some kind of a debate or some kind of a discussion and all this, you need to figure out if you're actually talking to that person. What's the purple thing? Yeah. What's it look like? Anyway, um, you need to know if the person that you are engaging with, especially names that are actually kind of known. You're always going to run into random accounts that have no information, no material on their sites, and all this. I mean, they do exist, of course, but if you have somebody who's like a known name, okay, in this particular case, Anthony Riley, okay, who is now AKA Sleeping Warrior. In the chat, you have these three little buttons on the side here. If you push those three little buttons, you get a little menu. That one of those items on that menu is Go to Channel. Now I'm going to in a new tab. Now, when you go to that, you'll find out that in this particular case, this is actually Riley's channel. I've been here a couple of times. Okay, so I know that the person that I'm actually talking to actually is Riley. Okay, now the reason why I bring this up is because last night I saw this right here. Uh, this he was engaged with somebody named Tesla's Apple. I don't know who that is either, to be honest with you. But it says "F your wife, I don't care about that slut," and there's various other comments by supposed sleeping warrior. Now, if you go like this and you say go to channel, okay, now this should lead us to Riley's channel, right? Now, open a new tab, and this is a nobody account. Okay. Now you can either hit about to find out when they joined. So this one's been around since about January. So it's probably had several names. I've had people who now if somebody comes in and they have like your icon, but some kind of distortion of your name, obviously you know it's somebody who's trying to screw with you. Okay, but this one actually has the name of Riley's account, Sleeping Warrior. Okay, and if it ever comes up without videos, playlist, discussion, and about, all you have to do is put into the URL /about with nothing else past it and hit enter, and it'll bring you to the about section. This guy claims to be from Afghanistan too. Interesting. Okay, so the time index of that particular conversation was on or about 45 minutes, 45 minutes and 30 seconds. Um, that'll land you about right here. You have to scroll up. There's this one that's got all kinds of icons. It's a couple of posts above that. So I just uh, I just wanted to make sure that I said that now anybody who does this, and yes, I'm including people who are on my side of this discussion. Anybody who does this is an absolute idiot. Okay, I'm calling you out as an absolute idiot. Regardless of which side of the discussion you are on. Because what it does, even though you might think, oh, yeah, I'm getting one over on Sleeping Warrior and he's going to catch shit about this tomorrow on Nathan's or whatever and all this. No. All you're doing is delegit because you can research this. This is the recording afterwards. Okay. YouTube now plays these things and they are selectable. Okay. You are delegitimizing your side of the argument, whichever side it might be. Okay. So that said, uh, I just wanted to make sure I got that out there because it's it's cheap, it's immature, and like I said, it's doing nobody any favors regardless of which side of the argument you're on. So that said, let's go back to this. Now, ironically enough, that's also where I get the name of this particular hangout. Thanks for supporting the Globe, Jeran, because the entire um, the entire debate, Jeran brought nothing. Let that sink in. Jeran brought nothing. Okay. So I just want to make sure that I said that out loud. There is nothing that Jeran brought to this discussion or to this debate to support Flat Earth. So therefore, with his 102,000 subscribers, hopefully they're all real people, with his 102,000 subscribers and his multiple channels and his website and his Patreon and all that other send me money, send me money, send me money. You want to tell me that over 2 years you don't have nothing except for they lie. Okay? Nothing. So, what I'm going to do is I'm going to run down this. While I was watching this this morning, I took a bunch of notes and timestamps, and I'm going to run through this as quickly as possible. Now, please note, there were this was the structure of their particular debate. Obviously, there was the whole intro and thing about donating for Jade West. Unfortunately, I do not know who Jade West is. I've never had the opportunity to speak with her, and apparently she passed away. For those of you who do know her, there is somebody who contributed a lot of money to her passing, as far as costs and stuff like that. And there seems to be a drive going on right now to help compensate for some of that. So That's all also in that beginning thing. If you know who that was, there's information in the beginning of the hangout, or in the beginning of the debate hangout. Okay. Now the debate format, as agreed upon by both people. First, they were going to have 2-minute intros each. Just saying, "Hi, this is me. This is what I do." Then after that, they were each going to have a 15-minute opening statement to present evidence of their model, the model that they're defending. 15 minutes each. And what do you call it? Then there would be a 10-minute rebuttal from each side where they can rebut the things that were brought up. Okay, things that were brought up during the other person's presentation. Then there was going to be a 20-minute open discussion, and then from then on was going to be questions from the chat. Now, I am not going to be discussing the open discussion or the questions from the chat because I ran out of time and I wasn't going to watch the rest of it. I will probably later, but this was just about the debate. Okay. So, and I'm going to run this down. Now, there was a coin toss in the beginning of it, and Red won the coin toss, but he opted to let Jeran go first, which I thought was actually beautiful because of the fact that it did not give Jeran the opportunity, which he actually does later, to just nuh everything that was presented. So at the 10-minute mark, Jeran starts his intro. Now, Jeran came out with this one neat thing. The only thing that I really put in there of note at 10 minutes 31 seconds, he said, "If you find somebody's shoe at a murder scene," he was talking about the legitimacy of evidence. He said, "If you find somebody's shoe at a murder scene, that doesn't necessarily mean that they were the killer. It might have meant that they were there." Yeah. Now let me emphasize this as clearly as I can, Jeran. Oh, I'm sorry, I didn't. By the way, here's the link. You can go ahead and, or not the link, but the URL, or you can get the link at the end of this hangout. I'm going to be modifying the description to have the breaks in the debate as well as the link to the debate itself. So again, this was actually during the intro. So I'll just go back to here about the shoe at the murder scene. If You can say that if one person is murdered and they find a shoe there, and the person who's attached to that shoe or who belongs to that shoe, yes, that's just circumstantial evidence. It does not necessarily mean that they had anything to do with the murder. Hell, it might have been that the murder happened after they lost their shoe, but just happened to be at that place. But if every single murder that you find has a shoe from that person, then obviously there's something going on there. And the reason why I'm pointing that out is because of the fact that if everything, now you can turn around, you can pull out some, one observation or one thought process or think experiment or something. You can go ahead and do that, and you can claim that that has something to do with the Earth being flat. But it has to match all of them. Otherwise, you're just doing what you just said that doesn't work, which is, you find a shoe at a murder scene doesn't mean the shoe belongs to the murderer. But if it happens at every single one, then you kind of got something a little bit more there. Okay. So then we moved on, and then Red introduced himself, and Red is Red. So and damn you for having this so late at night, because it was 2 o'clock in the morning here when it even started. And sorry, I didn't make it. Let's see. Now, then we started with the opening statements. Now, the opening statements was defined as you would have 15 minutes to defend your claims, your model, bring your stuff up, okay? Show proof of your side of the discussion. Now, spoiler alert, Jeran brought nothing. Absolutely nothing. Jeran brought his words, okay, of all of the they lie type stuff. But Jeran brought absolutely nothing to this entire debate. Nothing. He had a link to something that I saw a little bit later. I think it was like hockey pucks along a long floor and all this. But funny, I don't see any laser tag. Well, I'll get into that later. Anyway, So at 1552, Jeran says, "You do science to confirm science." That's the same thing as saying that you eat to confirm the ability to eat. No, science is not that. Science is doing science. Okay, it's a verb. Okay, basically. Now you can call it a noun in a different sense, but performing science is not to justify science. Performing science, um, Jaron wants us to believe that performing science is like performing a ritual in support of an ideology, as if science were that ideology and it was something to be worshipped. Okay, that's just not what it is. Okay, science is not a mold or a form to stick things into. Okay, science is defining that mold or form, if you understand what I mean. Okay, so 1652. Let's see. Uh, Anytime you bring up anything about that's wrong with the globe, you'll get an excuse. No, you won't. You'll get a definition, or you'll get an experiment, or you'll get a calculation, or you'll get something that can actually be repeated and proven. Okay. And at the same time, what has Jaron brought specifically at any time to prove the earth is flat, other than to say that because something can be faked, it must be fake? Okay, I've seen them a couple of times in the Globe Busters, and they'll turn around and they'll, like the other day they showed a satellite, or no, excuse me, I think it was the Soyuz, from the International Space Station. They said, "Oh, I can make that on my computer and all this." Because you can make it on your computer doesn't mean that it was actually made on your computer. Okay, half of the movies in the Matrix, or half of the stunts in the Matrix were actually computer models. It doesn't mean just because you can fake the appearance of a human being doesn't make human beings fake. Okay, do you understand that? Probably not, but I'll move on. 17 minutes. Let's see. A Glober will not get called out by their team. Excuse me, but that's absolute and total bullshit. Okay, the only actual critique that I get on all of my videos have been from people on my side of the discussion. Okay, that's how I met Dazza the cameraman, because he told me that I put the wrong number in a formula. Instead of what do you call it? I put the wrong number in a formula in the 1 degree video. Okay, I remember this. I remember this like it was yesterday. He came to me and says, "Hey, Sly, you screwed up. Basically, if the formula was 2 plus 1 equals 3, I put the 1 instead of the 3 in the actual result, and or excuse me, in the graphic of the video. Doesn't change what the actual result was, but I screwed up and I put the wrong number. I also had somebody else come to me on the "You Wanted Curvature" video. They're the ones who actually pointed it out to me that that I had written the wrong text when it came down to applying all the curvature calculators. Okay, they put it to me, and I put that in the video, or excuse me, in the description. I was just like, "Hey, I screwed up, massive typo." Okay, and things of that sort. That's the only critique that I get of any rational nature. I do not get rational critique from flat earthers. Never have. Okay. I get some really wild claims, but I don't get any rational critique of the material presented. And as a matter of fact, Jaron, you actually avoided a subject. I don't remember what the source subject was, but you came back and you said that, and this was funny because you actually brought it up at the Flat Earth conference. Okay, talking about keeping people on subject. You brought my name up. This was so funny. You came at me, not responding to what I had posted, but you came at me responding with, "Look, Sly thinks this is real." Where I specifically replied back, I was like, "Show me one place where I ever even referenced what you're talking about." Okay, because you know I didn't. And he even brought it up at the Flat Earth conference by name, says you got to keep people like Sly Sparkane on subject by mentioning the subject change that he brought up. Okay, so don't tell me who keeps to what. Okay, so 1749. Let's see. Apparently, okay, there was something that Jeran had said about a Wolfie video. He said he was going to actually, he will disprove it. So we'll have to see what that is. What do you call it? He said that Wolfie, all he does is confirm the globe Earth. Well, that's what confirming is. Okay, all this talk um, about presuppositions and stuff like that. If I have a if I'm given the circumference of the Earth stated to me, 40,075 kilometers. If I'm given that and I add that into a calculation, okay, what you need to understand is while I am using information that was provided to me, if I put it into the calculation and the calculation works, then guess what? I just tested that number. I tested that information. It has nothing to do with presupposition. Okay. It's called testing the numbers. Okay. Numbers that flat earthers don't even have. So don't get jealous about what we got. Okay. Um, let's see here. Okay, and then at 18 minutes and 37 seconds, Sean stopped Jeran, stopped his 15-minute clock, and he said he reminded Jeran that he's actually here to uh, present evidence of his model, not just kind of talk. Which Jeran, he says, well, I thought an opening statement meant something else and all this, even though it was clearly defined in the very beginning of the video. Okay, very beginning of the debate. And so basically, Jeran wasted about 5 minutes of his time with they lie and indoctrination and pseudoscience crap. Okay, those were his arguments. Then he comes in at 1849 and he says that there are many models that can prove reality. If you need many models to prove reality, that means you're building a model for each claim. But if they don't mix together, then you don't have a model. Okay, it's pretty simple. He even stated that if the moon were closer and if the moon were closer and smaller and the sun were closer and smaller, not a damn thing would change from Earth, and that's actually 100% not true, Jeran. To be honest with you, that's 100% not true because of the fact that our observations would change. The only thing that supports that statement that you made, the only thing that actually supports, is the eclipse for that couple of hours that it happened. That's it. Okay, that's all that claim supports. Now, it's actually kind of funny that you bring that up, though, because there are dozens of flat earthers who like to run around and say that the sun and the moon are the exact same size. That's why eclipse happens in the first place. But if I can go outside and I can put my thumb up in the air and I can cover the sun, that pretty much debunks that claim anyway. So your claim of nothing would change from the Earth if the sun were closer and smaller, the moon were closer and smaller, and the stars were closer and blah blah blah. That's being ignorant of the entire rest of the year, as well as being ignorant of other simultaneous observations at across the Earth during that observation. Cool. Oh, it was, huh? Okay, well, I'm gonna have to look at that. I honestly didn't make it that far into the post debate discussions, so I'll have to take a look at that. Carl just said that everything that you're trying to say is confessed around 1 hour and 19 in the debate, so I'm gonna have to take a look at that. Let's see, at 19 minutes 50 seconds, you all think that science has all the answers. No. As a matter of fact, Neil deGrasse Tyson did a little thing. You should look up the video called "Does Neil deGrasse Tyson observing UFOs?" And it's this great little discussion that he has. It's a cut of a discussion that was on stage, and he had very quickly said something about that. Now that was a couple of years ago. He had made a mention that he says every time somebody in the media comes out about something science related, they say, "Oh, scientists have to go back to the drawing board." And he made a joke. He was like, "Yeah, as if we're sitting in our offices, kings of the universe, got our feet up and all this." No, you're always at the drawing board. Okay, so science doesn't think it has all the answers. Science produces the answers that it has. Okay, now if we knew everything, science wouldn't exist anymore. But since that's not going to happen, that's not going to happen. Let's see. Let's see, at 2026, another thing about claiming that things have to conform to science. Nothing has to conform to anything. Okay, what it has to conform to is the facts and multiple observations and multiple tests. Okay, and if it can be repeated, it doesn't conform to something. It's established fact. Uh, and then he said something to the lines to the effect of, "You say I don't provide any evidence. Well, didn't you say that evidence is irrelevant anyway? So why are you even worried about that?" Then at 2018 or 2218, Sean busted in again and and reminded Jeran that he's got 6 minutes and 32 seconds left, and he still hadn't presented any evidence of flat Earth. Not a, not a thing. Okay. Let's see, 2259. He says disproof is proof. Um, let's see, but then he's telling you why you should disbelieve your questions. Uh, oh, but then he's telling you why you should disbelieve or question what you've been taught. Okay, so if you're going to prove something, or if you're not going to prove something, um, you can't just nuh-uh everything. Okay, there's no such thing as any kind of proof that's presented. If you actually turn around and test that proof, then that proof is valid. Okay, and yes, even lies can be tested. So if you want to say that everybody lies and stuff like that, well, then prove that. You can prove lies. Okay, you can prove that somebody lied about something. Now, if you choose not to do that and you just want to sit around and complain about everybody else lying to you, well, you're not doing yourself very much good. Let's see. At 2329, he turns around and says 1972 was the last time a human being was able to take a photo of the Earth. Okay, now of course he's only using that as a point because of the fact that since he doesn't believe that we went to the moon, so I really question why the hell he brought it up in the first place. Um, yeah, that's a completely and totally irrelevant point. Okay, so a human being who you already don't believe exists took a photo that you already say is not real. If they went out tomorrow and did the exact same thing, it wouldn't matter to you because you would still disbelieve it. You understand that? Okay. Uh, and to be honest with you, 1972, the last time a human was out that far to actually take a full photo of the Earth, a human being, mind you, not a satellite. Um, I'm to be honest with you, I'm mad as hell about the death of the space program too. Okay, but unfortunately, that's at the mercy of economics and politics, not science. Science got them there. Okay, but economics, politics, and national pride sent him there. If you understand what that means, I hope you do. 2357. Sean busted in again. It says, Jeran, do you just want to forfeit your time since you are not going to present any evidence to support your model? Jeran turned around and said that there is no measurable curvature. Those were his only words to that. Now I'm going to have to go out and find this clip. 2520, something about circle math. Jeran specifically said that the math works out on flat Earth for the Eratosthenes experiment. I'm going to have to find that. Let's see. And then at 2607, he said he basically talked around saying that they've only been doing this for 3 years, and so it's a little bit premature to ask for proof. Well, I hate to remind you, But wasn't Robotham back in the 1800s? You know, Bedford level experiment and stuff like that. So flat Earth's been around for a minute. Just like stupid has existed all through history. And yeah, so 3 years you can't really claim. And plus, let's talk about that 3 years for a second. Okay, the Earth was established as a globe, or at least spherical. Globe is probably the wrong way to put that, is what I'm saying. Um, if not over 2,000 years ago, let's just put it all the way back to 500 years ago, in the time of Galileo, Newton, and Copernicus. Okay, they were doing all this stuff with substandard equipment by today's standards, patience, simple measuring tools, and candlelight and a quill. Okay, that's it. And whoever wrote that on there, sorry, the no, the space shuttle was never planned on going to the moon. Um, Now he comes up with, he says 100 years. Uh, wait, oh, okay. He said it took 100 years for people to actually accept what Copernicus wrote. Okay, you need to understand something. You claim to be this history buff and all this. I remind you of the Inquisition and things of that nature that was going on all over Europe. No, it wasn't just in Spain. Okay, there was the Roman Inquisition. There was several Inquisitions that happened in France and of course in Spain. Okay, which was basically the church but breaking down on heresy. Okay, killing folks for heretic type behavior and speak. Okay, killing folks. Because the church is always good. Um, Now, you also need to understand that why he may have mentioned it in his book, Copernicus never once uh, went out to actually determine the shape of the Earth. To him, it was already spherical. Okay, and to mathematics, it was already spherical. Okay, let's go. Let's talk about the fact that. Well, no, I don't want to jump around. Copernicus theorized the heliocentric model, among other things. Okay, but a spherical Earth, that goes all the way back to the BC Greeks. Okay, the Earth was declared spherical. Even before that, it was pretty much known that it was spherical because it's the only thing that supports every observation that we have. Okay, so Copernicus wasn't out to say that the Earth was a sphere. Copernicus was out to say that Earth was not the center of the universe and definitely not the center of the solar system. Okay, that's what got him in all kinds of trouble. Okay, and the reason for the delay in the heliocentric understanding among the populace was because the church, uh, what do you call it? Was the church making sure that nobody thought that we were not the center of the universe? That's why. Okay, so now I would love to see where it is that you break out with this 100 years later. I'd love to see, whatever that was or where you're getting that particular number from. But you know what? I would actually kind of agree with it that it took about 100 years. Okay, due to threats of heresy in the Inquisition environment of the time, which even tried Galileo and concluded. This was the conclusion. This is actually written. Concluded because they. Uh, Yeah, they went against Galileo because Galileo was also for heliocentricity. And the church actually wrote foolish and absurd in philosophy and formally heretical heretical basically formal heresy since it explicitly contradicts in many places the sense of the holy scripture. Okay, look up the Galileo affair is what it was called, and it was basically Galileo against the church. Um, and then as a result, the conclusion of that, Galileo was ordered to abstain completely from teaching or defending this doctrine and opinion, or from discussing it, to abandon it completely. The opinion that the sun stands at the center of the world. Yeah, I don't know. That's some grammar issue there. that the sun stands at the center of the world and the earth moves, and henceforth not to hold, teach, or defend it in any way whatever, either orally or in writing. Okay, it was ordered to do that. Okay, so if somebody's, and I'm pretty sure that got a good little bit of popularity in the time. A, because it was controversial, blah blah blah, but B, the church has the power. Okay, a contained populace is controlled by the church. Okay, so but just for a little footnote though here, so it if it took folks a little bit of time to openly accept the conclusions of science, you need to also understand that 200 years after the Galileo incident, the same organization who damned the conclusions by observing the stars built their own celestial observatory. So let's all understand that for a second. So, hypocrite much? Let's see. So 26 minutes 22. Yes, he says 3 years of modern technology. Or no, I say that because he was talking about 3 years again. You know that's too premature. Uh, 3 years with modern technology, photography, flight, internet, etc. Uh, it is apparent. It's is apparently. Uh, how do you justify that, Jeran? How do you justify that claim? Okay, these guys were doing things with quill by candlelight, with what we wouldn't even consider toys as for equipment. So really, yes, and Kepler. Sorry. Let's see. 2635. My body of evidence is my senses, my understanding of the globe, and my understanding of the globe Earth model, says Jeran. Um, he said nobody would be a flat earther if it wasn't for NASA. Well, let's see. Samuel Rowbotham, pre-NASA. Just thought I put it in there. 119 years before Sputnik. And Sputnik was also before NASA, I might also add. So, 2722, nothing about history is true. Well, that's funny. Then why are you using history in your examples? I totally agree that we could be completely baffled by the information that, I mean, there's even things about well, even more recent figures in history and stuff like that who are either left out or completely written incorrectly. So to me, it could be Fred the snail farmer, and it wouldn't matter. Okay, because if you can reproduce the information that is provided by somebody in the past, then you can verify it. That's it. Uh, let's see. What else we got? 2845. If you believe in, he's talking about recent advances in technology over the last 100 years, and he says if you believe that we live in a time when this and that and this and that was discovered, you're nothing more you're you're nothing more than cocky. um I'm sorry. When I was a kid, cell phones didn't exist yet, but now cell phones exist, and not even they've even evolved over the last, let's say, 20 years, okay, to quite you know quite impressive devices. Okay, they've evolved even in that amount of time. So what's your point? Okay, when my grandfather was a child, jet aircraft didn't even exist. When his father was a child, aircraft didn't even exist. Okay, it's called progress, man. It's called, once we learn something, then we can figure out how we can use it. Sadly, a lot of things get put to military use, but you know, you it's just, let's put it this way. 54 years after the Wright brothers' first flight, Sputnik went up. 54 years. That's in one generation, going from flying to putting the first man-made satellite into space. Okay? That's what that is. It's just called progress. There was a time when, you know, People thought that lightning was strikes of wrath from the gods. Sooner or later, they figured out differently, etc., etc., etc. I'll move on. 29 minutes, 11 seconds. I have a lot of evidence against the globe. All of that combines again, or all of that combines. Again, you're talking about evidence here, but none of your evidence actually jives. And you said that there's like hundreds of different models, each one explaining something different, but none of them jive together. Okay. Um, and then that at that point was the end of Jeran's thing. That's so all in all, Jeran provided no graphics, no footage, no evidence, no facts, nothing backing up the physical shape of the Earth, nothing about the stars, nothing about the moon, nothing about the planets, nothing about flat plane observations, nothing. Absolutely nothing. Now, now it was Red's turn. Red's turn to make his 15-minute thing. Okay, ready? I'll give it to you in a nutshell. So, Red was up. Here's what Red brought. Red brought experimentation. Red brought actual observations and rationale behind those observations, and the fact that every one of the observations is repeatable. Every one of the experiments is repeatable. Okay? So let's just go ahead and knock these out right quick. Red brought up my Eratosthenes experiment that actually it's not mine. It was a combined effort of 23 folks. It was open to everybody, and it was conducted last year, um, which did not conclude a near sun. In fact, just further verified a distant sun and a curved Earth. You can go ahead and look up the video. It's on my channel. It's called Flat Earth Debunked. Okay, and it was in September of last year. Red brought up the fact that the sun's angular size does not change, period, with his own observations. And guess what? You can go out and do these observations also yourself. He did one over an entire day. By the way, Riley, this is how the sun looks when it's looking through a sun filter. Please note, no stars. Okay. Um, let's see. What else did he bring up? Oops. Yeah, it would help if I'm in the right spot here. Okay, he brought up ships going over the horizon. An observation. I won't give it any other word than that. An observation that is repeatable. You can see it almost every time you go out, weather permitting, and also conditions permitting. You can actually see it clearly. Okay, something that flat Earth does not address and cannot address as something that occurs across a plane. All they like to do is if there's a little bit of mirage on there or something like that, they say, oh, that's what's happening, even though the fact that it's not what's happening. Not only did Red bring up this video, which was from somebody called MC the MC1, I think it was. If I got that wrong, I'm sorry. But he also brought it up with his own observations of sailboats in Florida going over the horizon as well. And he also brought up the fact that you can superimpose right up on top to judge exactly how far beyond and under the curve you have gone. Okay, it's pretty simple stuff, actually. Then let's see. They brought up Soundly's Bridge. Beautiful photography. Go look at anything that Soundly has created. He even did one where he raised and lowered a drone looking at the bridge, and it conforms with the 100% predictive capability of the globe. Let's see. And then let's see. He discussed the sunlight in the mornings and in the evenings, at sunrise and sunset specifically, how they cross the surface of the Earth as opposed to our shining downwards. This has to do with the fact that once we get to a certain position in the day or the night, the light is actually coming at us from the side. That's something that also doesn't happen on flat Earth. Doesn't match geometrically. Doesn't match anything. Okay. Let's see. Then he had rocket launches that actually take off in the dark, but then they end up in the sunlight way before even twilight hits. Okay, it's more proof of it. Let's see. And then, of course, there was Sean's, and also Red says that he also did it. I don't know if I actually saw Red's, but nevertheless, it would just take a visit to his channel to find out. Sean did a he brought his drone up just pre dawn, waited for the sun to become visible, then dropped his drone down. He got 3 sunrises. Okay, 3 sunrises, only possible. Sorry, with the geometry of being on a spherical Earth. Period. Okay, and then he also went on there to talk about the fact that the uh, the spherical Earth model, the heliocentric model, all only support or every observation that we have outside is supported by that model. Every single one of them. Okay, which is nothing more than we are on a ball that rotates that orbits the sun. Period. Now, you show me a flat Earth model that can be that simple and everything about it works that way. Show me one. I'd love to see it. And not to mention that Red concluded his presentation at 13 minutes of his, or at less than 13 minutes of his 15 minutes. Because, I mean, how much further do you need to go? And he also made sure that he brought up that he was not going to use any material from NASA or ESA or the ISS or any number of other places, third-party sources beyond the stuff that he was actually able to verify for himself. He made sure that he did that. Jeran's rebuttal. The first thing he brings up is the I'm gonna butcher this name. I know I am. I always do. Antikythera mechanism. That mechanism that they found to be supposedly from ancient Greece or ancient Rome, whatever. That looks like a cog out of a clock or something like that. He brought that up, and who cares, Jeran? Okay, they can't even properly with 100% certainty say exactly when that ship actually existed, and if that stuff that was on that ship was from the exact same period. Now, all of that stuff that was on the ship, they were able to date. Okay, but it could come from I'm not even going to go there. That's so stupid. Let's see. Then, then, by the way, you're just going to see the word rebuttal there because Jeran didn't show anything. 44 minutes 22 seconds. He's talking about my test, and he said, pointing out tests that have no fear behind them. Okay. Now, I think I know what he was trying to say there, but you know what? I'm just going to answer you like this. If you walk into the first time I ever performed an experiment knowing about this whole flat earth thing and stuff like that, I was nervous. I really was. I was up on the roof of my building, and I had put together a little test, and I was actually nervous because I was concrete that it was going to show one thing or the other. Concrete. And I said, you know what, this would really be awkward if this actually proved that we don't live on a globe. But nevertheless, you could be nervous if you know that something that you believe or something that you know or something that you have proven in other ways is to be contested with something. You can always do that. But guess what? Makes no difference. Okay? It makes no difference. If you walk into an experiment trying to prove something or you're scared of what the results may be, then you need to not be doing experiments and then go back in your own little damn hole. Okay? Sorry. So if you walk into something with fear, yeah, no, I fear nothing. Okay, I go where the facts take me. And guess what? If the facts take me towards flat Earth, you won't have to sell it to me. I'll be pushing you out of the way to knock on NASA's door. Okay, but guess what? 2.5 years of doing this, I have tested every single claim that's been humanly possible to test that has been brought to my attention. And guess what? Not one of them proves the Earth to be flat. So anyway, 44 minutes 58 seconds. Let's see. Jeran says, I am much more interested in those who go out to shatter the existing paradigm. Well, gee, um, that's just like saying my two favorite football teams are the New York Giants and whoever beats the Cowboys. Okay, your two favorite people are flat earthers and anybody who destroys globe earthers. Dude, that's not very scientific of you. Okay. Um, let's see. 4521. He says we're all being held back by Steve. I think he means Steve McRae, and I think what he's trying to say is that people are blocking information. But guess what? Steve's sitting right there below you. Didn't say a word the whole time. So I guess he's not really trying to block you now, did it? Let's see. 4529. Apparently we have. Oh, according to him, apparently science has discovered everything. No, science hasn't discovered everything. So be done with that. Um, I got a model already denying /Sparkane, and it's your globe. Okay, I'm looking at somebody, and it's probably another discussion. Sorry. 4554. Each new century has a whole new plethora of discoveries. Yeah, well, guess what? No shit. That's called progress. I mean, just because we didn't know about, this 20 years ago doesn't mean that it can't exist now. So, and as far as scientists knowing everything and stuff like that, I heard this wonderful discussion one time where a guy said he said a scientist could read 100 books about one subject and not be satisfied that he knows everything about it, whereas a faithful person can read portions of one book and think they know everything about everything. So take that however you want to. Now let's talk about progress. Especially a whole new plethora of discoveries. Check this out. The use of fabrics has been around for quite a few millennia. Okay, in the 1700s, steam engines were developed. What do you call it? And then in 1859, the first oil wells, which later produced fuel, were drilled in Pennsylvania. I think it was Pennsylvania. But also in 1859, the first combustion engine, which used coal gas and air, was created. In the 1700s, a fuel-based combustion engine was created. Uh, in the 1900s, an engine was built by a guy named Taylor, a specific engine that required a 8 horsepower, but he ended up producing 12. All of that information together, okay, we're talking about, first about 200 years, but also the material. Um, the Wright Flyer in 1903 flew at Kitty Hawk. It was made of wood and linen, thicker linen type material as the wings, and engines that had only been around for about 50 years. Okay. When you combine different discoveries, you can make a new discovery. In this particular case, it was discovery of powered flight. Okay. Gliders already existed, including ones created by the Wright brothers. But powered flight was finally achievable because of the accumulation. So it happens when things become available for something to happen. Okay, now recently we've had great advances in a lot of things, and that's because of the fact of communication increases, manufacturing improvements, electronics, and blah blah blah. You can go on forever with that. 4632, he referred to my test, and he says my results would have been exactly the same with scaling and variance. So in other words, if you just kind of bent things a little bit more the way you want to. Thanks for admitting that you would actually fudge the results of a test. 4656, he was talking about Newton, Copernicus, and Kepler had different ranges for the sun. So? I mean, really, so? Did you know that within 1 degree of measuring the sun, within 1 degree, using proper ground-based measurements between 2 points. Um, Within 1 degree, you can get, I think it's about 40 million miles. When I did my video a long time ago about, measuring the distance to the sun, just using longitude, latitude, uh, the sun's height, or the sun's zenith on the same day from 2 different locations, the rounded off figure that I got was 10 million miles. Now you might say, "Haha, thank you, Sly. You just, proved or disproved this." Right. Because if I would have been off by another, um and I was rounding off to the 10th of a degree, but if I would have rounded off to the 100th, or if I would have moved on to the next 10th of a degree, there would have been several million miles difference in the measurement. Okay, you don't realize how fine these measurements have to be. Okay, you really don't. Uh, at 47 minutes and something, I actually didn't even type the seconds on it because it was so stupid. Uh, he started talking about the weight of the moon and the weight of the Earth. Who the hell cares? That's for geologists to worry about. That has nothing to do with actually the shape of the planet. Okay. He also said that at 4730, he says no proof that things grow to a sphere because of gravity. Um, that's what gravity does. It attracts from all sides. So therefore, the end result is spherical. Okay, Uh, job done. I mean, how difficult is that to understand? Let's see. Said something about water on the ISS and stuff like that. When they squirt it out, does it doesn't all contract together and form a sphere immediately. Mind you, you can actually slowly let it out, and it makes a sphere all by itself. Okay, but then you'll say that that's water tension and all that other neat stuff. But you have to understand, man. If I put a rock on one end of a table and I put a rock on another end of the table, I'm not expecting those two rocks to come flying at each other. Okay, gravity is described, even though one of the most important forces is described as a weak or lesser force because it's a cumulative force. In other words, it requires lots and lots of mass to make, well, at least a fair amount of mass to make the actual, um, to make it actually visible that it's taking place. Which is also why the Cavendish experiment, as cool as it is, it happens very slowly. Okay, so then he said that at 48 minutes, he said that gravity should have created the big ball and not the Big Bang, or at least that was his summary. I put that together in a single sentence. He actually talked for a couple of seconds on that. Um, yeah, you forgot the bang part. Okay, it didn't just kind of sit there. Okay, bang, as in things expanded. So they weren't just like parts that were just kind of sitting there in limbo. Because yes, at that point it would have been the big ball. But we won't go into that. Let's see, 4831, presupposing the globe. Um, any measurement you stated is actually testing that measurement. Okay, if the test doesn't work, then you can conclude that the globe measurements can be wrong. But when the test comes back with, you know, matching observations or matching reality or whatever it is that you're testing, it confirms the measurements used. I can only say that enough times. Okay, you get all these flat earthers out there who say, "Oh yeah, but you're using presupposition and stuff like that." No, using that as a portion of an experiment is actually testing that. And if the experiment comes out the way tested and the way predicted, then guess what? It confirms it. So deal with it. Let's see. Then 4845, he mentioned a test by somebody called Good Times for All. Apparently a flat earther, something about a large warehouse floor. Um, well, here's the thing, man. You know what I want to see? Whoever that guy is who did that, I want to see your laser test across that floor. Okay, I really do. I want to see a laser test across that floor. I want to see that that is actually proven to be level. Now, think I saw a thumbnail of it somewhere when I was sorting around through the end, but I want to see a laser test across that floor. Simple. Okay. Till then, hush. 4924. Apparent sun, apparent moon. Oh yeah, that's right. He had a problem with the fact that on one horizon you can have the sun being somewhat lifted up uh, due to the lensing effect of the atmosphere, the refracting effect of the atmosphere. Whereas it's also happening on the opposite side on the moon. Is the atmosphere only supposed to be on one side of the Earth, dude? I mean, really? Get over yourself. Then he said the Selinon, or however you pronounce that, the eclipse where you can see the sun and the full eclipse at the same time. Please note that is not visible from every location. That is not visible from on every eclipse because you have to be right there on that line between the sunlight and the moonlight, and you have to be high enough to see it, and you have to have an incredible distance away from you of open space to actually see that. You will not see that every single time. Let's see. I thought this was great. 4953 says light just refracts, it doesn't bend, which is the stupidest rationale I've ever heard. Okay? Refracting is bending. Okay? You can call it deflecting, you can call it any number of physics terms about photons going through a medium. Okay? Ultimately, it's bending, and I think even the scientific definition of refraction, it says bending. So, yeah. Let's see, 50 minutes, 20 seconds. He said there was a test claim there. Jeran claims to have shown that there is uh, so much water behind Red's sailboat. Okay. I think this was the part actually where Sean actually had intervened. I might not have noted it, where he said you're not addressing anything that Red said. Uh, then Jeran says that he demonstrated that there's so much water behind which one was it? Behind this. There's so much water behind it. Um but then he says, but angular resolution makes things become too small to see. Well, if you can't see it, then how did you show it? Okay. And then he said something else along that same line of thought there. He says, at what do you call it? At some point, the water is reflecting the sky, so we can't see it. So again, then how did you show it if you can't see it? I mean, really? Okay. So yeah, that was another cop out. Let's see. At 50 minutes 44 seconds, he made a claim. He claimed that he says Jeran said he has peer-reviewed papers. Hey, thanks, Tony. Has peer-reviewed papers that say that you cannot see the horizon. I'd like to see these peer-reviewed papers. I'm not going to comment on that because I have not seen said papers. But yes, you can see the horizon. Let's see. 51 minutes 31. Round Earth presupposes and needs the stars as an infinite distance away as an excuse. Um, you know what? I'm actually going to do a video on that. I really think I am going to do a video on that just to show what it is about the distance of the stars and why measurements over time, I mean, there's been some greatly different measurements, why those different measurements are possible. I'm going to go ahead and do that. So, I mean, I did a video on that regarding the distance of the sun when I actually broke out the trig, but I think or just well actually just triangles really, but I think that was like buried somewhere in a hangout, so I'm actually going to do a video on that all by itself. um yeah, I'm gonna have to do that. 52 minutes 33 seconds. Flat earth. uh oh, apparently the Sean's three-time sunrise can happen on flat earth. Something about raising your elevation lowers the angle, and then makes the sun visible again. Dude, the distance apparently is either A, making the sun disappear in the first place due to distance, so no angle is going to help you there. only getting closer to it, which Sean did not. Sean went up and down. Uh, and then of course the be all end all of flat Earth excuses at 53 minutes. Uh, oops, I'm still over there. At 53 minutes, Jeran says that it looks like a ball because NASA films everything with a GoPro. That was his words. Now let's not also not forget that Jeran himself specifically said that everything looks round in a telescope because of the lens on the end of it. Makes everything look round. Now that's of course ignoring the fact that you can actually point a telescope at things on the ground, and all of a sudden, for some reason, they're not round. So yeah. So at 53 minutes 17 seconds, his time was up. Red's rebuttal. I there was a pause when Sean says, "All right, are you ready to rebut?" And Red just kind of sat there. You know, I have this picture of this, of course, a fantasy image of what Red actually looks like, but with this kind of deer in the headlights look at his monitor. I know he was doing it because he was asked to rebut what Jeran put out. To which he started out by actually saying, "What the hell am I supposed to rebut?" He didn't produce anything. He did point out though. He says nobody brought up the mass of the Earth and nobody brought up gravity yet. Uh, uh, yeah, Jeran found it necessary to do so. And then, but at 58 minutes and 11 seconds, the ship over the horizon, Red reminded him that they had a discussion about this a while back. And if you take an actual full size, undistorted image of said boat that you're trying to look at, and if you match it up to the tops of the boat that's now gone over the beyond the curvature, you can actually find out what its actual height is. Um, by matching up the tops, and then you can see what's going on below it. Because if you match up the bottom and try and say what's going on above it, then you have to somehow explain how the thing shrunk. So, which is not going to happen. Uh, now, you might think that the only people that I was interested in debunking here or having anything to say about was Jeran, but I have to point out one thing that was only part of the answer that Red gave about my first Eratosthenes open participation experiment. Now he said that they were invited. Now the truth being told, I invited anybody who wanted to participate, flat Earth or globe Earth, anybody who wanted to participate. Um, so saying that I invited them is kind of a generalization. However, and no, I did not directly inform them. However, after I did that, and then they came up with all kinds of wild excuses, and then Dr. Zach came out with that refraction video, which basically just did nothing more than move the light source, um, casting shadows on a board that he couldn't figure out exactly what the length of the nails were, um, but yet could get a decimal reading with a regular tabletop ruler. He can get a decimal reading of millimeters on the shadows, which is actually harder to measure. But anyway, sorry, don't want to go off on that. Um, Afterwards, I actually had made a special invitation. You'll find this still on my channel. I made a special invitation to Jeran and the Globebusters that if they hosted a redo of my experiment, which they said didn't conclude anything, but yet at the same time, Jeran did turn around and say that we know what the results are. There's no sense in retesting it. It's a waste of time. But then on another video, when Jesse Kozlowski said the same thing, he said that everything needs to be retested. We shouldn't just take old words for it. But Jeran says he knows the results of the Eratosthenes experiment, and it concludes the globe because of globe math, whatever the hell globe math is. Let's see. But I had actually made a special invitation directly to the Globebusters that if they hosted that test, I would not only participate, but I would also assist in graphics and all this other stuff to help them make the presentation. To which I was told by, um, well, specifically by Bob, to FO and die. Those were his exact words. and pretty much laughed out by every other one of the Globe Busters. Because that's what people who are in search of and or spreading truth do. They run from experiments, right? I mean, because that's what you're supposed to do, right? So, what do you call it? Reds ended his 10-minute rebuttal with a minute and 30 seconds to spare because he didn't have anything that he had to rebut. So, here's where I'm at, guys. That was my review of the information that was put out by Reds and by Jeran during the debate yesterday. I encourage everybody, don't just take my opinion, go over and watch it. I will be putting the chapters of where the debate actually, the debate chunks actually took place. I'm going to be putting that in the description as soon as I'm done with this hangout, so you can link straight to the parts that you'd like to hear. I did not, and I still have not looked at, or excuse me, reviewed. I kind of, I let the slider go over it to see if anything was presented, and I did notice that somewhere in there, Jeran, or well, somebody presented what Jeran was talking about these black discs or hockey pucks or whatever they were across this warehouse floor. I know that at least that image is there. But I did not listen to any of what transpired afterwards, nor did I go to or watch the after show, which I keep getting reminded here in the chat was absolutely outstanding. So you guys make sure you go over and watch that, give them a like, and yeah, go with it where you want to. I didn't want to make this long. Apparently, I didn't talk as fast as I wanted to, but nevertheless, you know, I tried to keep it within an hour. I used an hour to cover an hour, so that's about how that works. Let me just close with one statement that I made at the beginning of this thing, and that was, well, actually two statements. One, there's a thing about Jade West. Find out about that in the beginning of that debate. And second, if you are using mimic accounts, meaning you're faking an account to look like somebody else, act like somebody else, no matter what side of the debate you are, whether you're on my side. If you're on my side, I don't even want to talk to you. Okay. If you're on the flat earth side, I've come to expect it, but I still find it equally childish. If you don't have, number one, the balls to make your own comments, or number two, if you want to try and make somebody else look bad by doing something that you can actually prove is being faked, in other words, being an account on somebody else's chat. I don't even know if there's any going on in my chat right now. But if anybody who does that on either side of the argument, I'm sorry, you're a punk, okay? And that's just what children do. Okay, so I would remind you that if you want to go to somebody's channel, or if you want to know who it is that you're talking to while you're in a uh, while you're in a chat, if it's a name that you know actually exists, if it's somebody that's been around, whether it's Jeran or Morgile or any of these people, what you need to do is you need to actually go over to their channel, or go over to the button here, hit go to channel. Okay. Now I know this is Ola's channel. I've seen it before. Okay. But if you end up at some part where you are just on a channel like this one right here is claiming to be Anthony Riley in the chat of that particular hangout, or of the debate itself. If I go to channel, that's not Riley. Okay. Riley has content on his channel. Okay. I know that for a fact. It doesn't mean that, no real person is somebody without content, but if it's somebody that you know that you're discussing something with, you might want to check their channel to make sure that it's actually somebody. And feel free to post it all over the place that, it's a mimic account. I even fell for this one time in the chat of a Nathan hangout, where I actually had to go back, and me personally, I did this from me. I went back and I apologized, at least in the chat, to Nathan and Riley, because of the fact that there was somebody who was posing as both of them, and they were making really, really disgraceful comments having to do with Nathan's daughter. And I'm sorry, people who do that shit. And at first, I didn't even think about it, and I was, just kind of running around. I didn't even have audio that day, I don't think. And I was like, both of you are disgusting fucks. Okay. And I was, I was even going so far as I was going to call somebody to, to present that to them. But then I turned back around. I was like, wait a minute, let me go and check their channel. And neither one of them was them. Okay. So I actually went back into that chat and I said, well, I just found out that that these were mock channels and they didn't need to be there. And I actually, in my own words, of course, I wasn't discussing it with anybody because, who are flat earthers to discuss things with people? They Yeah, okay, now if it's got the, yeah, sleeping worry CGI and ranty CGI and blah blah blah, yeah, okay, but at least that's noticeable. But these are people who actually are trying to mock a specific channel. Um, I actually went back into the chat there and I said, my apologies. I didn't realize that I was reading things from fake accounts, and because that's what people of integrity do. So, ladies and gentlemen, I hope you enjoyed this. This was my summary of the debate that went on last night, which I was not able to be awake for. Uh, I am still waiting on a couple of things to get done, but I do have a gravity video coming up. I do have a flat earthers can't photography video coming up, and a couple other little things going on. So stay tuned for that kind of stuff. Um, Anyway, I appreciate y'all coming by. Really enjoy the fact that I got 173 people watching right now, and that makes me feel all good inside. Um, oh, and by the way, if you're going to come to my channel and tell me that that my sub count is too low to be taken seriously, and you have a 0 count on yours, yeah, had that twice today. But anyway, uh, ladies and gents, I hope you guys have a great rest of your weekend, and y'all have a nice day.